ham, old cheese. All right, hand me that screwdriver over there. In the town where I was born came a man from 7 seas, and he told us of his life in the land of submarines. Oh, so you don't want to hear any Beatles songs. Okay. All right, just wait for the show then.
In a world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, and despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Oh, you magnificent bastard, I read your book. I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch! Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, always spelled with a K, a mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Bell Mill, the belly of the beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Streets, and at the end of the show, when I exit the plush, resplendent, sumptuous, and palatial SHR Media Studios, be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from downtown Sacramento. Be forewarned, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and no one else's. The saloon is serving stiff drinks, facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense out the front and back doors, depending upon the fear porn quotient. Remember, we don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. This is 2021. I am done with bipartisanship and compromise And understand, I'm also done with the Republican Party. I talked about that last week. Odd, it's still true today. This is the new age of modern political warfare, gaslighting, lies, massive hypocrisy, half-truths, threats, and all on the part of Democrats, leftists, anarchists, aided and abetted by their propaganda machine and organ, the American media maggots. They have all declared, we are on an open war footing against you. "2021 is going to be the year of retribution, revenge, and punishment of conservatives by Democrats. Let there be no mistake about that whatsoever. It is Thursday. It is February 4th already, the year of our Lord 2021. And I have in the SHR Media chat room Simone, Mike, Sergeant Booker, Kate, the Alaskan, Leslie, Eric, and 3 viewers who will not be unmasked because we don't unmask people like certain parties do in certain presidential regimes twice ago. We don't do that here. Tonight, my co-host is going to be HANSON, Jeremy, one each. Jeremy, are you there, senor? Okay, now, oddly enough, this happened last time. And apparently, Skype is going to do the same thing.
I can't hear you through through Skype.
Okay, I heard you. Can you hear me? I'm going to do this all over again, apparently. No. Okay, here comes the phone call. Here comes the Mark 1 Model 1 phone call. But I've got to go into my list and get it right here. Let's go to Plan B, which is this, and see if this works. One ringy dingy. A lot of people in the chat room. I like it. Thank you very much. I'm looking for folks in the Facebook chat room and do not yet see any, but that's not necessarily because anybody lets me see, because Facebook doesn't let me see. Sir Jeremy, are you there, sir?
I'm here.
Okay, isn't that odd? Skype did the same damn thing this time that it did to us last time. Although, really, should we be shocked? The answer is, nah, I don't think so. Not at all.
No, absolutely not.
No. Okay, first things first, I acknowledged everybody in the chat room. Thanks, folks, for being here. One ringy-dingy roof buzzy, Leslie said. Very true. And also, hey, thank you, Leslie, for reminding me of this. If you're listening to the show on Spreaker, now that I actually have the person to whom I called, share me on Spreaker. Hit share, etc., and let people know that the show is going on. If you happen to be watching me on Facebook, share on Facebook far and wide, if you would, pretty please. And if you also happen to be on YouTube, because I am running YouTube and Facebook live concurrently, please share me on YouTube as well. For the show, we have Jeremy HANSON, who has his own show. And Jeremy has acquiesced and said kindly that he will be here as co-host all night. So first things first, Jeremy HANSON, tell folks about your show and where and how and when you can be found.
Okay, I'm 5 o'clock Central Time on Spreaker, or I have a website, ujhlive.com. It's apolitical talk. I like burning them both down, if you know what I'm saying. And that's literally what it is. It's a show for the people, by the people, kind of like our government's supposed to be.
Yeah, but isn't. There's an interesting thing that occurred, a funny little paradigm recently. Jeremy and Kate and I are working as kind of a triumvirate, and we're being incredibly assisted by the owner and creator of Magabook, Eric Thompson, who is going to bring a radio aspect, a streaming radio aspect, to his social media site, magabook.com. And the three of us frequently think alike. And I listen as frequently as I can to Jeremy's shows, Monday through Friday, and to Kate. I have had Kate and Jeremy on the show any number of times. And the one thing that we seem to be unified in anymore is we are done with the Republican Party. So I'll be talking about a little bit about that tonight, but mostly what I want to do is, you wouldn't expect anything less than this, I don't think.
Bloviating Zeppelins, HeyJackass.com Chicago Death Toll Update. Courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
And you can find this on HeyJackass.com. HeyJackass.com, illustrating Chicago values. Final January totals versus 2020. Shot and killed 54. That's up 93%. Shot and wounded 195. That's up 40%. Total shot 249. That's up 48%. Total homicides 55. Up 49%. The week in progress, January 31st to February 6th, shot and killed 4, shot and wounded 18, total shot 22, total homicides 4. I'm a little disappointed. Year to date, shot and killed 56, shot and wounded 209, total shot 265, total homicides 57. Is Chicago finally starting to wake up? Well, we'll find out, because the shot clock, the 2021 shot clock in Chicago, indicates that a person is wounded every 3 minutes and 6 seconds, and a person is murdered every 14 minutes and 19 seconds. What I was hoping to do with Jeremy tonight is simply review the week in terms of, well, what has happened in the Biden regime. This is something, however, that I haven't done in quite some time. And Jeremy, obviously, as co-host, chime in anytime that you wish. So I thought, okay, happy stories. And of course, naturally, because it is 2021 and it is the Biden regime, there will be some morose stories. So if you're waiting for that, you'll have a little time to wait, but not all that much, because after all work and no play makes Beezy a dull boy. I found this in a San Francisco newspaper. Now, you'll understand the importance of that in just a moment. And this is, I couldn't figure out what article it came from, but here's a paragraph in a newspaper. To all you hunters who kill animals for food, shame on you. You ought to go to the store and buy the meat that was made there where no animals were harmed. That's San Francisco. Just remember this, though. That person who authored that probably drives an actual car and could be in the lane next to you on vacation, votes, and worse even, may have already reproduced. Here's another happy story. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis actually paves the way for logic and safety. Ron DeSantis' Florida is the unsung success story of the coronavirus. And isn't it funny? Of all the states that are having difficulty with the coronavirus and the vaccine, if you were interested in deigning to take one, which I am not. Well, okay, let's stop there. Jeremy HANSON, are you taking a vaccine, sir?
Hell no.
Why might that be?
Well, for me personally, it's because where my wife works, I get to hear about all the stories of people that she worked with and what's happened to them because they took it. And the thing is I don't put things in my body that I don't want, period. And I don't want a vaccine because it's only been tested for not even a year. I think that this is a bioweapon. I don't think that any vaccine is going to work. There's horror stories from people that I know with hair falling out, with the spot where they take the shot for, a month afterwards being hot and hard, like hard plastic. There's something not right about it. And if the government tells you it's good for you, chances are it's not.
Okay. I'm going to make a reference, but before I do, is your wife somehow aligned with the medical industry in some fashion?
Yes, she is.
Okay. All right. And I make mention of that specifically because I have an individual that I talk to every now and then who I would occasionally consult with regard to medical matters. And that individual, who is in a hospital in Sacramento and is a nurse, and whose name I will not reveal, has told me about 4 weeks ago, just when this stuff was kind of starting to roll out. She did say this one thing. Up until now, with regard to the coronavirus, they were very forthright in terms of explaining medical issues and anomalies that I might bring to them. But with coronavirus, that stopped rapidly. The only thing that I got out of them was, by some kind of a semi-consensus, nursing staff and aligned individuals decided that they're not going to take this round of vaccines. And I tried to ask, okay, this round, but would you consider something in the future? And that's about the time where they said, I'm not going to really talk to you about that, and I can't really talk to you about that because I like my job.
Right.
And that's how watertight information out of the medical community is, and has been for months and months regarding coronavirus, and certainly things like this vaccine, which everybody is touting as sort of the second coming. From this article, beginning January 20th, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo acquired a new problem. He cannot very well blame President Biden for his performance on the coronavirus, and he can't blame Trump. So he now lacks a federal scapegoat forward to deflect blame for his shortcomings. So Cuomo and his erstwhile cheerleaders in the media have been forced to come to grips with their utter incompetence underlying his ostentatious, self-indulgent behavior. The pandemic has caused more death in his state than in any other, and a higher rate of death than in any other state except for New Jersey. But the biggest example of a success story is in conservative Governor Ron DeSantis' Florida. Florida's larger in population than New York, more. And this is the other point about Florida, and why can this individual manage a pandemic and the distribution of vaccines, whether you take it or not, is up to the end user. But Florida has a larger population than New York, more elderly because they flee New York and come down there, visited because it's a tourist destination, visited by more potentially infected tourists, and its population is concentrated in urban areas. Kind of like New York. And yet, in contrast to Cuomo, DeSantis has been successful in distribution, in minimizing the pandemic, and everyone has thrown a hissy fit because there wasn't a massive die-off during the summer season. Here's another story. This involves a great little audio cut. This is from MRC TV. And this is MSNBC speaking about Joe Biden.
MSNBC right now, sir. Talk about what this means in terms of your political future here. Is this
because these are hard-hitting questions, folks. Hard-hitting.
No audition for 2020? Vice President, how do you compare what you see here in Independence, Iowa on the 4th of July to what's happening in Washington?
These folks are here to celebrate values.
How many cups of coffee a day?
Half.
Hard-hitting.
Mr. Vice President, how you doing?
Good.
Mr. President,
hard-hitting.
You've been aspiring to this office for your whole career. What does this moment feel as you're about to walk into the West Wing?
Hard-hitting. It says, that's why you watch MSNBC. That's who we are. Breathlessly, of course. So, You know, I think I've acquired a new, like, I always used to say something similar to President Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with a dead orange cat on his head. And now I guess I can say OCB, Orange Chick Bad, because now that's Jen Psaki. Oh, this is great. I found this on Facebook. I might have to play this a couple of times. You guys are going to have to listen to this very, very closely. This is a happy story. This is a cop walking up to someone he has pulled over. Both individuals are Black Americans, and this is East St. Louis, Illinois. Listen very carefully, because it goes rapidly. I'll play it twice.
So you know why I pulled you over?
Why you pulled me over?
You were doing 90 to 30. Why?
Because I'm in the hood.
That's a good answer. I'll be speaking to this motherfucker too. But you got any guns in the car?
No, sir, I ain't got no guns
you gonna
in this
need
car.
one. I'll be right back and grab you one.
Well, that's how you serve and protect the community.
Okay, for those of you who just tuned in, here we go. I'll play it. I love this.
So you know why I pulled you over?
Why you pulled me over?
You were doing 90 to 30. Why?
Because I'm in the hood.
That's a good answer. I'll be speaking to this motherfucker too. But you got any guns in the car?
No, sir, I ain't got no guns
you gonna
in this
need
car.
one. I'll be right back and grab you one.
That's how you serve and protect the community.
That's how you serve and protect. Excellent. Okay, here's another happy story. We knew this was coming. When I tell you the headline, Jeremy, I'd love your comment. CNN ratings plummet 44% in the first week since Trump left office. Jeremy, why may that possibly be? That is a happy story, though.
It is. It couldn't have anything to do with them relentlessly attacking Trump and people actually wanting to know what's going on with Trump. And then, you know what? Their guy's gone now. Yeah, I think I said this was going to happen. After Trump leaves, they're not going to have anything to talk about because they absolutely refuse to talk about the buffoon that's doing the stupid things in office now.
Right. If Trump isn't news, there is no news, nor will news be covered. It's
correct.
It's just like the Sacramento Bee. The Sacramento Bee was in the 70s. Boy, that dates me. Was a moderate to kind of left leaning organ, but the op-ed editorial pages were clearly delineated from the news. And they would have some leftist slants, but in the 2000s now, they're so far over the top. There isn't a scintilla of difference between the op-ed page and each damn story they write. Left-wing network CNN and MSNBC relied almost exclusively on anti-Trump content to attract viewership over the past 4 years. And now that the Republican president has exited office, those same networks are witnessing their ratings nosedive at unprecedented levels. It's because they're not news. That's juicy and lovely, but they're not news.
Well, and you got to remember, Brian Stelter, he's in favor of a reality czar. And, that's going to piss people off. It pisses me off.
Yeah. Don't think I don't have that story coming up also.
Awesome.
Let's talk about some ratings. CNN ratings during primetime hours. That's 8 p.m. through 10 p.m. Eastern. Everything is Eastern. Plummeted by 44% according to Variety Intelligence Platform. To determine the changes in viewership, Variety analyzed data across two key metrics: the target news demographic of people 25 to 54 and total office. Now, MSNBC did a little better. I don't know why that is. They fell as well, quite not as sharply. They went down 20%. But what do you think would happen if your local news station just tanked 44%? They're guaranteed. There would be an assload of people getting fired left and right. Now, though, and this is again where I want to ask you and the folks that are listening. Now, let's not let Fox News walk away from this. Their primetime ratings went down a little bit between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m., but they did. This is kind of a clue. They did not go down at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, when Tucker Carlson Tonight is broadcast. which, you guys are going to love this. This is a happy story. The program hit hardest, according to Variety, was Cuomo Prime Time, airing at 9 p.m., which saw its audience of 25 to 54-year-olds plummet by more than half. I love that. I absolutely love that. Your thoughts, Jeremy Hanson, about... Now, you and I both know what I think and you think about CNN.
Right.
What are your thoughts? I still watch Fox News, but I am very pointed and targeted in terms of who I don't really watch live that much, but I will record some programs for later viewing. I'll still record Tucker Carlson, and there are a couple of people in the morning, early in the morning, that are not half bad. But your thoughts about Fox News, primarily, to me, everything really changed November 3rd.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I don't trust any of them. I don't even trust Tucker. Because when it comes down to it, they're feeding their family, they're buying their mansions.
Yep.
I like Tucker. I think Tucker's funny. And I think that he actually has some balls, but I guess I'm not fair because I know how it works behind the scenes there. And Judge Jeanine Pirro, that they told her, you're not going to say this. And she said, yes, I am. So they gave her a 2-week break.
Yeah, they kicked her off the air.
Right. Ann Coulter came out and just blistered Donald Trump. And then you have Sean Hannity. But it doesn't matter what Donald Trump does. He could set fire to a church, and Sean Hannity would yeah, he's doing something great. It was inspired by God. So Fox News to me is a big junk pile that's swinging in the wind. And there's a few bright spots, a few shiny pieces of metal, and a lot of garbage.
I'm not disappointed in Brian Kilmeade, and I can see this guy's face, but I can't think of his name. There are about one or two others. Now, what I have done is I have gone over to listen more at Newsmax and at OANN. The way things are distributed for me in Sacramento, I can go on my cable and I can look at Newsmax, but if I want to see OANN, I have to pay for it separately over the internet, which I can put on the TV. But I've noticed that they are also in the lurch. I can't think of the gal's name. Again, I can see her face, and actually it's pretty much immaterial. On Newsmax, who once someone began to talk about voter fraud, she said unequivocally, there is no voter fraud. It has never been proven, and it's never been proven in court. Now, does that sound a little bit familiar to you from someone 1.0 to just this week, someone 2.0, Jeremy Hanson?
Oh, yes, it does. We see these comparisons all the time. Before we get too far, there's a name that I want to say that I always forget, and the man is a beautiful guy. I'll tell you what, this guy hits it on the nail every time he does a broadcast, and that's Lou Dobbs. And I always forget him.
Okay, all right. That deserves... And I got to tell you why. Because I got 2 minutes before the bottom of the hour break. It's fun. GMTA, dude. Because once 3 weeks ago, maybe a little bit after the election, before Christmas, I thought, okay, I'll start watching Lou Dobbs. He's one channel up from what I watch on Fox from 205 to 206. So when Fox was doing whatever the hell it was doing, I'd go, oot, and watch Lou Dobbs. And then I'm thinking, this cranky old dude reminds me of me, except he's a lot sharper. Yeah, Leslie is right. Don't tell anybody, Leslie. Don't tell anybody. But I'm thinking, this guy, apparently here's what happens, as if everybody didn't know. On every show, there is a producer chirping in your ear. And you all got, everybody knows that everybody on the air has an earpiece, and that's so the producer can tell them when they're going to break, when to break, when you're running long, when you're running short, and the producer also tells you when you're going to dump a guest and when you're going to be dumped. And I keep thinking, with all the crap that Lou Dobbs says, I'm actually kind of shocked that either the producers are asleep, which is okay, or they've never had to dump him yet, or they don't care, or they're just not getting the viewership on Fox Business News that they do on the regular Fox network. But you make an excellent point. I record now, because I don't watch him, I don't have that much time to watch him live. I record every Lou Dobbs show now. And you are absolutely correct. That's the guy I'm listening to now more than ever. So, folks, I'm BZ. That's Jeremy Hanson, our co-host, my co-host, your co-host for tonight. And I'll be right back after this, if you'd be so kind.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Unleashed Jeremy Hanson, the most explosive pro-American podcast on the planet. Pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-conservative. Come join the resistance. Fight for what really matters in America. 5 p.m. Central on UJHLive.com, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or MAGAbook.com. Come join the resistance and fight for America. Unleashed Jeremy Hanson.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are back. The first half hour is gone. I'm BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin. You're in the saloon, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. With me tonight is co-host Jeremy Hanson of Unleashed Jeremy Hanson. And because you've been such wonderful individuals, please share me on Spreaker. Please share the show on Facebook. Please share on YouTube. Be a Sharon, Karen kind of guy. Karen, I mean Karen, Carin. If you're Karen, that's with a K. Like California. Huh, funny how that works out. Jeremy Hanson, great to have you here tonight, dude. Thank you very much.
Dude, it's hard for me to keep up with your bloviating.
Oh, yes, I know. Well, and a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I started a blog in 2004, and I was agonizing, what am I going to call myself? And I came upon BZ because I did, this dates too. Okay, I'll tell you the story. It's not that long. I sat on the stand in a homicide trial when I was in homicide for a week and a day, couple of days, almost but not quite 2 weeks. Now, if you've ever been on the stand for an hour, you know what an incredible trip that is. It really is a mind screw, so to speak. Can you imagine being on the stand for roughly 8 hours a day for at least a week? Well, one of the things that the attorney, who was very much like the noted attorney down in Southern California, Irving Kanarek, who defended, the little dude who, Manson. Irving Kanarek defended Manson. And this asshole would ask me literally the same question 75,000 different ways. And the judge never objected. But what he told me is that when I would give him an answer, it wasn't factual. I was doing one of two things. I was either opining or I was bloviating. So that's where I got the bloviating for the bloviating Zeppelin. And of course, look at me. Just look at me. I am, in fact, a Zeppelin.
Oh, no crashing and burning.
Yeah.
Other than that, we're good.
Yeah, other than that. Tucker Carlson calls this guy the Dwarf King, which makes me laugh like hell. And you mentioned Brian Stelter earlier, Jeremy Hansen. Well, since we're here and you brought up the Dwarf King, Brian Stelter happened to say this about Fox, and I want you guys to hear what the new phrase is for the left, because this is a hook. And you're going to see and hear a lot more of this from now on. This is Brian Stelter, who is on CNN, telling you about Fox News.
There is, up in the sky, information pollution. And the polluters are trying to deflect blame. Dishonest cries of censorship are filling Fox's airwaves with charges that these guys right here are being suppressed. The word censorship's been invoked almost 400 times on Fox this month alone, and more than 300 times on Newsmax. You know, post-insurrection, a book publisher decided that it did not want to be in business with Senator Josh Hawley. So he's been on a national TV tour claiming he's muzzled. And Tucker Carlson is telling viewers that this network, CNN, is trying to force Fox News off the air, which is patently false.
Okay, listen to this. This is the buildup. First, he says he's not there to remove Fox from the air, except
it's as predictable as the sunrise. Democrats win elections, and then Republicans say they are being silenced. But while some cry cancel culture, let me suggest a different way to think about this. A harm reduction model. Most people want clean air and blue skies, and accurate news and rational views. And then in that healthy environment that looks beautiful, then we can have great fights about taxes and regulation and healthcare and all the rest. The vast majority of people can agree that disinformation about, let's say, the pandemic is unhealthy. It's harmful. So how can that harm be reduced? Well, big tech platforms say they are removing lies about vaccines and stamping out Stop the Steal BS and QAnon cult content. Now, do these private companies have too much power? Sure. And many people would say yes, of course they do.
Yes.
But reducing a liar's reach is not the same as censoring freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is different than freedom of reach.
Okay, stop right there. That's all you need to hear, because you're going to hear that phrase from now on. Freedom of speech is not the same as freedom of reach. And I wanted everybody to hear that, because that will be... It's like, that's the new mantra. The new mantra will be freedom of speech is not the same as freedom of reach. I speak leftist, so I'll translate for you. What that means is, if we reduce your ability to speak, we're not censoring your content. Oh, come on. We're just limiting your ability to say it. That's beautiful. That's why I changed my name to 1984 Bloviating Zeppelin. But we'll get to that in a second. Any thoughts about Jeremy Hansen about freedom of speech is not the same as freedom of reach?
Well, I think that, Brian Stelter and Chomo Kazi, I think they need to check themselves, accurate news and rational views. Well, who's to determine what's rational? I mean, these are the same guys that are out there promoting, kill pigs or fry pigs in a pan. They're promoting that, and that's supposed to be rational. And then accuracy. Oh, my gosh. Go back 1 year and go see how many mistakes CNN made. And they weren't all, I shouldn't even say mistakes. How many lies were perpetrated. So, as far as I'm concerned, Brian Stelter and Chomo Kazi can go to hell.
I'm not done with happy stories, because this is, again, the rule of unintended consequences, but there's a reason for my putting this in here. And ends up harming some people. But folks, if you don't see this coming by now, then I refuse to apologize anymore for you. This is from Southern California. Local Kroger stores close as California, we spelled it with a K, Hero Pay ordinance backfires. New Hero Pay mandate in Long Beach, California, has inadvertently cost some frontline grocery workers their jobs. Ralph's and Food for Less, both owned by the parent company Kroger, announced Monday, this was actually this past Monday, that they're going to be closing 25% of their stores, a full quarter of their stores in Long Beach, after the city council passed an ordinance requiring companies with over 300 employees nationwide to pay employees an extra $4 per hour. Now hold that thought. A local news outlet reported, and a company spokesman directly cited the city council's ordinance mandating higher wages as the reason that they are closing down. And as we knew already, this proves jobs are transportable. Now, Long Beach Mayor Robert Garcia was a key proponent of the measure, and he signed it into law. He says it's justified because grocery store workers have been on the front lines of this pandemic and deserve this support. So have truckers. So have emergency responders. So have Uber drivers. And the people that have not been on the front lines would be, the people that write the bills and shit like this, like the mayors. This is the standard leftist bleat. So similarly, Garcia and other supporters of this wage hike, mandated wage hike, I should point out, companies are just being selfish by closing down rather than paying their workers more. They point to the fact that Kroger has seen high levels of profit this year. That's the key word, though, I point out, mandated. But the truth is, Kroger said these specific stores were already financially struggling, and that's both beside the point. The mandatory wage hike honoring heroes was passed by politicians eager to spend everybody else's money and claim the credit. But like any other minimum wage law, it always is going to have the unintended consequences of people losing jobs whatsoever. Now, again, this is what I say. Please note how sly are the American media maggots. This is the part you don't hear in the stories. In the rest of the stories, because I looked at a couple of others, you won't hear this. The minimum wage in Long Beach already is $14 an hour for employers with 26 or more employees. A $4 increase mandated by the mayor would make that $18 an hour. I know computer technicians that don't get that and had to pass numerous courses to get that. That's about a 30% raise for every employee in Long Beach under these parameters. That is a huge spike in that grocery store's labor costs. And there's another thing you should know, to which I'll pause momentarily and say something similar to Jeremy Hanson. Have you ever worked or known somebody who worked in a grocery store environment?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things, and I'm not going to quiz you, this is not a Socratic method show here, but I'll just tell you, for people that don't know, we talk about margins and business. Margins are profits. The margins on grocery stores are remarkably thin, as opposed to, say, something like electronics, whose margins are huge. So anybody familiar with the business already knows that margins in grocery stores are paper thin. So if you're in this at all, the job, how would you like to also, on top of that, add all those and try to keep up with all those tenuous supply chains from everywhere in the time of Wuhan 19? So I also find this, and this is something consistently untold by the American media maggots. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, projects that a national $15 wage would eliminate 1.3 to 3.7 million jobs. Well, we already got rid of 11,000 jobs, 8,000 of which are high-paying union labor jobs, by a stroke of a pen. And there goes the Keystone XL pipeline. Boom. Canada, not really happy with that. But when the mandate for 15 comes around, the CBO says, yeah, not just 1 million jobs, not just 2 million, not just 3 million, almost 4 million jobs are going to be lost by the people that can least afford to have them at the stroke of a pen, a $15 minimum wage. Any thoughts about that and that aspect, Jeremy Hanson?
Well, absolutely. You're right. We wouldn't really have to do this, but they're selling pie in the sky. $15 an hour minimum wage means that the product is going to go up to cover that. And then when they get to $15 an hour, they're going to put in the new deal so the people that lose their jobs will work for the government. That solidifies the Democrat Party. And then at $15 an hour, then they can start taxing and bringing in more tax money. And at the end of the day, the person that got the $15 an hour raise is actually making, or expendable income is less than they were working for a lower wage.
Yeah, and it also creates what? Oh, that's right, all sorts of automated systems because people don't want to spend a lot of money on lesser skilled workers. Here's something that, I don't know if you ever went through this, but a long time ago when I was growing up, I know you're going to find it hard to, BZ, no, that's not true. I mean, you had to repair chariot wheels when you were growing up as a kid.
I was going to say, what kind of horse did you have?
Yeah, chariot wheels. I had chariot. Luckily, not the really spiky chariot wheels that you saw in Ben-Hur, but they're ones that were wooden that at least I had the acumen to be able to repair. Thank God. But a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I actually worked at entry-level jobs. And in the 60s and 70s, these were considered to be entry-level jobs because it got you used to, as I said before on another show, put on a uniform, show up at work, be on time, punch in the button, learn how to press the cheeseburger icon, learn to take off your uniform, learn to go home, learn to encapsulate your day and get a good work habit going at work. They're not meant to be jobs for you when you're 40. They're entry-level jobs for a purpose to motivate you, to get you inculcated in terms of being an employee, how corporations work, and getting a paycheck. And this is how life goes. What the leftists and Democrats think and they believe is that it's the duty of business to lose money when they so decree for any reason whatsoever and at any time. Here's another happy story. This comes from, of all places, Poland. I have some friends who used to come to across from Poland, and they would come to my department when I was in charge of EVOC. That's the Emergency Vehicle Operations Course. And at one time I was in charge, I was the range master, so I was in charge of all things that went boom and bang on the 3,000 to 4,000 person department that I worked for. And I was in charge at EVOC, which is all the cool cars going fast and driving around on a track and all that kind of stuff. The people from Poland would come over. I'd throw them in a cop car, do 70 to 80 miles an hour, do a J-turn, do backwards, and by the end, after they'd flung all the sweat on the interior of the windows, they'd all jump out and be laughing like bastards. People in Poland love America. They absolutely love America. Poland proposes social media free speech law. The first thing you ought to be thinking to yourself is, why doesn't that say America? Poland's government has proposed a new law to stop social media platforms deleting content or banning users who don't break Polish laws. The proposed bill would see social networks fined up to £9.8 million, the equivalent, or $13.4 million American, for failing to restore deleted posts or accounts. Justice Minister Zbigniew Ziobro, and now, God, I actually pronounced that. I'm shocked. Announced the Freedom of Speech Protection Bill on Friday. The law would also establish, God, I hope you people are sitting down, a Freedom of Speech Council, not a retributive council like Canada had, like Mark Stein was subject to. So now, and you mentioned this earlier in the show, Jeremy Hanson, in America, no. Are we doing that? No. What we're doing is establishing Ministry of Truth straight out of 1984 reality czars so we can restrict your speech as much as humanly possible. That's a happy story. It's for Poland. But again, why the hell doesn't that say, folks, I'm going to be, in 2021, I'm going to try. I'm not saying I'm going to achieve, but I'm going to try to be a little bit better with the potty mouth. So,
well, you say that about Poland, and I'm telling you, if I was ever forced to leave America, I would either go to Poland or Hungary, because both of them are taking steps to protect not the speech they want to hear, but free speech in general. And you know what? I can be offended.
True.
Right. Isn't that awesome that as Americans, we're tough enough to be offended? Oh, that's right. Only half of us are.
We're not. We really aren't. Oh, by the way, moving right along, this is another happy story. By the way, did you know Biden's press bint isn't exactly who you think she is? This is from a guy on Twitter called the Dank Knight, which I kind of like this. So he's got a picture of Jen Psaki. If you're looking at me doing this, that what normal people indicate is the okay sign. I was raised on this. This means okay, gotcha, okay, acknowledged, 10-4, whatever. But of course, somebody hijacked that and said that, white supremacists do that. So he wrote, after putting a couple of photographs in there of Jen Psaki doing that, she's OCB, orange chick bad now. He wrote, "This is not normal. I feel unsafe in Biden's America. This is a dog whistle to his followers. I can't believe my children have to grow up during such a racist administration. I'm completely shook right now." This is another happy story. This is glorious. Speaking of race, because everything gets down to race, report: West Wing offices in Joe Biden's White House are White House. Jeremy Hanson. The very name White House is racist, isn't it? Go ahead.
I don't know how to talk about this insanity. The White House is bad. If you have a manicured lawn, somehow you're enjoying some sort of white privilege. If you don't go steal shit, somehow you're enjoying white privilege. Oh, yeah. If you've worked your ass off, you are white privilege. Oh, yeah. I'm so damn sick of this. I could be very happy in a bicameral society. I really could.
I say, and I started saying it a little bit before you do, but you and I, GMTA, once again, right, are thinking that we're almost on a track that's unavoidable, where there will have to be, in America, there will have to be two separate cultures, two separate economies, two separate internets, two separate banking systems, two separate stores, two separate service industries, ad nauseum. Whatever it is that exists for you right now, we're going to have to duplicate that as conservatives if we wish to survive. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a matter of survival.
It is.
It's absolute survival. It's like, this. I'm surprised we even call it the White House. Wait a minute. If I had a producer, what you would have heard is, or, yeah, I know, White House. What am I?
You're a loony.
What am I?
You're a loony.
Okay. By the way, we can say yes, or we can... Or it's the White House. One of these days, I don't think we're going to actually be able to say White House. An analysis of West Wing offices thus far handed out to senior advisors demonstrates that President Joe Biden's innermost circle of aides with prized real estate in the building are... God, this is again where I need a producer, but I've already gone through all that crap, so I'm not going to go through it again. Mostly white. Wait, mostly white? Out of 22 offices on the first and second floors, only 4 offices, including one occupied by VP Cammie Harris, are held by non-white individuals. The rest, a supermajority of 18 such West Wing offices, are occupied by white people. God, I hope you people are sitting down. It's going to make me cry. Did you know, Jeremy Hanson, did you know that there are 18 white people in the West Wing? Anybody have a paper bag? I need a paper bag. Jeremy Hanson, I need a paper bag, please.
I'll breathe for you.
Okay. Right. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The report comes as Biden signed 4 executive orders on Tuesday focused on racial equity. Stop. Jeremy Hanson, I know you know the difference between equality and equity, and why these days we're hearing about equity. We're not hearing about equality. We're hearing about equity. How do you feel about that, Sir Jeremy Hanson?
I'm so fucking pissed about that, I could break windows. I am sick and tired of them saying, oh, it's because of their color. I know a lot of people from every spectrum, how the light bounces off your skin. I know people of every color. And every time I know somebody that's a hard worker, that likes to take chances, that likes to take life by the horns, they do well. And here we have these people that are coming up. You know, they're doing this for votes and eventually complete confiscation of private property.
Oh, that's coming.
What they're doing, in this racial equity and stuff like that, they're conditioning people to hate white people, Christians, Trump supporters, blah, blah, blah. Then they're putting this in there saying racial equity, which in real terms actually means reparations. So through racial equity, they're going to use our taxpayer dollars instead of rising the tide for every vote. They're going to only focus on the black, brown, and I don't even think yellow is included in this, and I sure as all know red isn't. And they're going to take that money, but they're not going to distribute it to reparations for regular people. They're going to give it to bureaucrats who are starting businesses who are going to supposedly help these communities. We've watched this over and over and over again. And as a matter of fact, in 1983, if you remember the Reagan-O'Neill compromise, there was a lot of this bullshit in there as well. And we granted legal access to America, amnesty for illegal aliens, 3 million of them, and promises to do this in their communities and this in their communities with our money. And then Tip O'Neill said, we're going to fix the border. We're going to fix this. Pro-America, pro-American workers. How well did that work out for us?
Yeah. Between 0 and 0.
Exactly.
But here's the important point. Now, everyone knows, and again, I've said this for years and years and years, decades, and Lonnie Poindexter was going to be here with us tonight, who is a good buddy of mine and is in the studio, because also he and I are of like minds about many things. But he calls these people folks who have certain paint jobs. But he and I both agree on this fundamental concept, and that's it, is no one is equal until everyone is equal. And making some this straight out of Animal Farm. All animals are equal, except some animals are more equal than others. Equality is the opportunities that are afforded you. Equity is, now, people went from demanding opportunities to they're not satisfied until there are exact, precise, same outcomes for massive differences in terms of motivations and output and work put therein. Which is why communism stinks, because communism kills the soul. And you mentioned that earlier, Jeremy Hanson. The other aspect of that is when you remove property, when there is no such thing, no animal, as private property, then people say, oh, well, it's going to be given to the people. Who turns out to be the people? Well, the government turns out to be the people. So a massive difference between equality, that is to say, you should have equal opportunity to do fill in the blank throughout the United States. Now, it's equity. And this is the flow chart from which everything stems. And it began with LGBT. Now it's transmogrified into everything that leftists push. We went from...
Do you remember Rodney Dangerfield?
Oh, yeah. Funny as hell.
Okay, do you remember he was really funny. He goes, he was in this movie and he was going back to college and he said, kids these days, they don't want to start at the bottom and work their way up. They want to start at the top and work their way sideways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we have going on today. And to further that point, you're spot on, is how can you have equality, equal equality, if you can't have equal justice? Because if you look at this sham that they call a justice system in our country,
oh my God,
this is personal for me. My son goes to college; he wants to be a cop. Then he watched these asshole BLM groups and Antifa groups come out, and he watches them beat up cops, and cops become the hated group. And people that Biden have put in his administration have said things that cops are worse than ISIS. And, that affects me because it's my son, but how many other people out there where we used to have a sense of justice and we knew, not every cop was a good cop, but damn it, most of them were, and most of them were just regular people. And they want to lecture us about equality. How about some equality for the police officers, the rotten bastards?
And with that point, I'm BZ. That is Jeremy Hanson. We'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website, www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for air times. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EBL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are back. I am BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin, and you're not. God, where did that come from? I think that came from Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, like 1966, 1967, which, by the way, if you've never watched it, holds up as well today as it did back in the 60s. It's still funny as hell. This is the cool thing about doing a show. Before I forget, if you would, hit share on every platform that you can think of. In terms of like Spreaker, share on Spreaker, share the show right now as much as possible, Facebook, YouTube, etc. Please share and share alike. The cool thing about having a show is that I can change and move. I'm nimble. You didn't think it to look at me, but I'm nimble. Look at how nimble I am right now behind the microphone. I can change. In the chat room, something was brought up about DNA, and that made me think of a story that I read recently by Gordon Chang. And Jeremy Hansen knows, I'll ask you in a second, but I won't grill you like the Socratic method. The article, this is from Newsweek. China wants your DNA, and it's up to no good. Again, by Gordon Chang. If you ever get the opportunity on whatever platform you're looking at to find out what's really happening in China, Gordon Chang knows all this stuff. He is eminently clued in. This is the story. We need to further harmonize policies and standards and establish fast tracks to facilitate the orderly flow of personnel, said Chinese ruler Xi Jinping to the virtual G20 Leader Summit on November 21st, last year, 2020. China has proposed a global mechanism on the mutual recognition of health certificates based on nucleic acid test results in the form of internationally accepted QR codes. We hope more countries will join this mechanism. What does that say to you, Jeremy Hansen?
That tells me that our freedom is going to be completely gone, controlled by DNA. Like, we've actually had discussions, not me and you personally, but I've had discussions with people in the military where we've talked about this exact thing, where if they can trace your DNA code, they can create a weaponized germ warfare program, and they literally could take out your whole family. It's kind of funny that you brought this up, because if you remember when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, she went to the UN and she went and got the royal families in Africa to give her their DNA. And nobody could figure out why. Well, ding, ding, ding. There you go.
As Gordon Chang writes, he says, no, this is not a benign proposal to facilitate international travel and trade. On the contrary, I think this is absolutely, what's the word I'm looking for? Insidious. He writes, on the contrary, this is almost certainly another Chinese initiative to enlarge its collection of the DNA of the world population. Jeremy nailed it. Why would they want to do that? So Gordon Chang writes, and why does China want such sensitive data? Beijing is determined to dominate the biotech industry. Beijing may also be developing biological weapons designed to target certain ethnic groups. Stop. Now, if China can devise a bioweapon to target certain ethnic groups, you can be guaranteed that what it's doing simultaneously is taking as much DNA from its own Chinese population to ensure that if something is released, you're affected and they're not. We already saw that in real life, in the real world, with regard to China's release of Wuhan 19. They stopped all travel from Wuhan, but left travel from Wuhan to every other point on the globe open. So thank you for reminding me of that in chat, Leslie Holker. Folks, do not give your DNA away, because I want to know what my peeps were. Okay, number one, you do realize that your DNA then is sold, because every company that you submit your DNA to, you're paying them a price so that you give them a product. The product is you. So you're paying for them to take your DNA and then sell it. Okay, that's two profit streams right from the beginning. Now, initially, they were selling to other DNA collections or collectives. You tell me they are not already selling to China and any other country that will pay. I still have a couple of happy stories left. Oh, I went sideways there just a little bit. Sorry about that, folks. Happy story, and I hope this is something of a trend, and it's true in your state, Jeremy, which is way cool. Arizona, Texas, and Iowa join states prepping against 2A assaults by Biden administration. Gunpowder Magazine just reported that legislators in Missouri, and Arkansas have filed bills to make their state strongholds against inevitable onslaughts the Biden administration is preparing to wage against the Second Amendment. How do we know that? 'Cause they told us. First, they were hinting around the edge, well, we're not really here to take your guns, to Pete Buttigieg and who's that other lying, fake, faux Mexican crap, Beto O'Rourke down in Texas. No, we're coming for your damn guns. They want you to be 1996 Australia all over again. Ask Jack Alexander how that went. Missouri has the option to adopt the Second Amendment Preservation Act, and Arkansas lawmakers have been presented with the Second Amendment Liberties Safeguard Act. Three more states have joined their fellow 2A guardians in taking preemptive measures against unconstitutional measures surely to be imposed by Biden and his anti-gun cronies. I've got another story about that. This falls, however, under good stories, happy stories. And then there's this.
Many gun rights advocates fear a new attack on the Second Amendment with the new government in Washington. Some are taking a page from their liberal opponents and applying it to the gun issue. National correspondent William Lajeunesse tonight from Los Angeles on the concept of Second Amendment sanctuaries.
Okay, let me stop right there just for a second. Jeremy Hanson, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Do you have any thoughts pro or against Bret Baier?
No, I think Bret Baier is just kind of a lazy journalist. He gets all the stories from everybody else. He calls himself a journalist, and he's just there.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of a weather watcher, if you know what I mean.
Okay. You mean what I termed an observer of what I call the political prairie winds. And whichever way the political prairie winds tend to blow, that's the way he's going to go. But
yes.
the issue is, and I have to ask the exact same damn question, why is it always okay for leftists to say, screw federal law, we'll pick and choose whatever laws we want, one from column A, one from column B, but it's bad for us to do that. So basically, these are laws on the books. This is again, the reversal. This is the reversal, the gaslight reversal. Leftists in leftist states and enclaves want to not follow the law, the federal law, and they get away with it. That's predominantly okay, even though Trump attempted to do something with that. But the federal courts at the time didn't see that to be fit. Now, when certain states want to adhere to federal law, that's bad. You see how that works, folks?
Well, isn't that an old adage? Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, it
coming
is.
From them.
Yeah, and boy, did that ever happen to John Kerry recently, and of course every other leftist. Now, sadly, we're going to get back into reality, the various realities that are inherent in 2021. This is a sad story from lawofficer.com, but I bring it up because it's another display of how politics have infected everything. This is the headline, because this is what you were told, and what you were told is false. This just came out day before yesterday. Officer Sicknick, the Capitol Police officer who passed away, was not beaten with a fire extinguisher. But that's what you were told. Why does the media continue to lie? A week after the tragic death of Capitol Hill police officer Brian Sicknick, law officer pointed out the inconsistencies in the media reports and the warnings from his own family that others should stop making his death political. Unfortunately, nobody listened. Media outlets, politicians, spin artists, and many others kept telling the story that terrorist Trump supporters beat Officer Sicknick to death with a fire extinguisher. Okay, so how did he die? Well, some went even further and wanted others to believe, you talk about falsehoods, that President Trump himself was part of the beating. That's out there. And yes, it's out there in terms of mental fecundity, but it's also out there in terms of it's in the ozone. If you look at it and find it, it's there to be found. Some people are saying Trump killed this officer. That's insane. Evidence that despite the family's request, many could not resist making those comparisons in that tragedy a matter of politics. Now, Jeremy Hanson, this is where I want to ask you about a particular individual, because I used to listen to this guy until I realized who the hell he was. There's a guy that was in Congress. He was a one-termer, a 2-year wonder, and then he was done. But this is from, in my opinion, a fuckstick called Joe Walsh, who wrote, if Donald Trump hadn't lied about a stolen election, Brian Sicknick would still be alive. Did you ever know anything or hear anything about Joe Walsh? Because I did.
In my opinion, Joe Walsh is the biggest pig-headed piece of shit fuckstick, like you just said, that there is in talk radio. He is absolutely the worst. He is a Johnny-come-lately. Anybody that will throw him money, he takes and runs with it. He's an anti-Trumper. He is the biggest piece of shit in talk radio. He's even a bigger piece of shit than any leftist out there. I can't stand him.
He's occasionally worse than George Will and Bill Kristol, and they are the penultimate anti-Trumpers. Then the story continues. I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Well, I was going to tell you, I have a dear friend of mine, Tom Hennigan, that reached out to him to come on my show. And he called me a political assassin, and he wouldn't come on my show because he's a weak little piece of shit.
Joe Walsh?
Joe Walsh.
Oh, that means you must have had an opinion contrary to his.
Yeah, this was when he was going to try to run against Trump. He's a little Northern Illinois puke, and everything he says is a lie. Literally, he can twist and contort anything.
Now I begin to see why you have some knowledge about this guy. Okay. I get it. So on top of all of that, and again, despite the family's request, one group in particular exploited Officer Sicknick's death as a rally cry against the murder of law enforcement, and of course the proverbial white supremacist violence that caused it. The Democrat Party. Pelosi. Again, the leftists can say anything they want, and it won't be refuted, and nobody pushes back. It appears, except you and me and a few other people, and a lot of the folks that listen to us during the day and at night. Speaker Pelosi said the perpetrators of Officer Sicknick's death must be brought to justice, and the sacrifice of Officer Sicknick reminds us of our obligation to those we serve to protect our country from all threats, foreign and domestic. She couldn't not get away with throwing in domestic. Drawing a conclusion that even those people that are tasked with investigating the matter can't yet draw. And that's this. While they don't have the autopsy results yet, sources have advised that there are indications that Officer Sicknick sustained blunt force trauma. Let me repeat. There are no indications that Officer Sicknick sustained blunt force trauma. But this is the meme, and they're going with it. And don't confuse them with the facts. And this coincides with what the family said just a couple of days after his death, indicating they thought that he may have died from a medical condition. So if it turns out to be true, Officer Sicknick's death was undeniably used as a prop for the sake of politics, and even more abjectly craven for the sake of political gain. Now, even CNN wrote, investigators struggle to build a murder case in the death of U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick. Investigators are struggling to build a federal murder case regarding fallen U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, vexed by the lack of evidence that could prove someone caused his death as he defended the Capitol during last month's insurrection. And as I logically point out, okay, this is from a building that is literally dripping. It is festooned with cameras everywhere. And the Democrats and the American media maggots keep on with their lies because it serves their political purposes. But here's the thing that both Jeremy and I are sick of. Who is there to push back on this crap? Who? Nobody. Certainly not the Republicans. It's people like Jeremy and myself and Kate and other individuals who are attempting to let people be adults, hear information, process information, and draw your own conclusions. That was the whole thing about Jeremy's revelation and my concomitant revelation that I'm done with the Republicans. If you would recap, Jeremy Hanson, your thoughts about today's Republicans. Because this is it. They don't push back.
They don't push back, and not only do they not push back, they don't even have a foundation that they're fighting for anymore. They are there specifically to line their own pockets. You know, if I could take a step back here just a second, we were talking about that weaselly piece of shit, Bill Walsh. And Bill Walsh for the Republicans is like Susan Rosenberg for the Democrats. You know, when it comes down to this, and you're talking about, what was that officer's name again? Something Nick. When it was immediately reported, they said that he had a stroke, and then it was blunt force trauma, and then they, mediatized it. It's like a tumor metastasizing. And anyways, so all this happens, and they blame this, and there's so much stuff out in the open, and the Republicans refuse to talk about it. Bill Walsh was a real piece of crap when he was younger. Literally, I think he owed like $140,000 in child support because he was a deadbeat dad. And then he gets up there and literally runs for president. They won't talk about him. The same thing with Susan Rosenberg. She literally was with a communist group that called M19CO, and they tried to blow up the Capitol. Bill Clinton said, you know what, his last day of his presidency, you're free to go. Go do what you want. She runs Thousand Currents, which basically garners money for the BLM, and that's okay, even though she literally tried to blow up the Capitol. She works for the Hunter College in Manhattan, teaching women's studies. And this woman, this radical that had a life sentence for trying to blow up the Capitol, also now sits on the parole board. And they want to talk to us about violence, except they're full of violence. But again, it's do as I say, not as I do.
Funny you mentioned that. I got on my favorite search engine and found a book. Tonight We Bombed the U.S. Capitol, the explosive story of M19, America's first female terrorist group. And she's happy about that. She's absolutely happy about that. I talk about pushback. Okay. No pushback on this. And I've got some other examples, and I'm sure that Jeremy Hanson will have more. But, the Republicans, the folks who held the triumvirate, I call it the triumvirate. They held in 2016 the Oval Office, the House, and the Senate, and one guy in the Oval Office can't do everything. And yet then they abjectly, terribly failed to coalesce and pass the national voter ID law. They had the power. Had they done that, then I couldn't do anything but conclude that it could have saved us from all the crap that occurred on November 3rd and halted that incredible debacle. Oh, and as you've pointed out in the past, Jeremy Hanson, they failed again to mandate E-Verify in order to screen illegals. You want to stop illegals from coming here? Halt the motivation. They couldn't even do that.
They couldn't even stop them from coming across our border, BZ.
No.
Here's the thing. The Republicans are engaged in just as much fuckery as the other side, and they literally lead us astray. They literally lie to our face, and I feel bad for a lot of the illegal alien families that come here, because those rotten bastards, and when I say rotten bastards, I'm talking about the Republicans and the crooked left Democrats, they both have them here for their own reasons, and they both vilify them to the American people. So instead of us getting angry with the Republican do-nothing ballless party, we get mad at them and listen to their talking points. And then the Democrats, in their own way, subvert the truth and use them as, oh, you come up here, we really don't like you, but look at the American people. They're so racist against you. Vote for us. It's a laughing stock. It literally is.
And you'll never find out how many people die on the way, including children. And how many families put their children first, shove them through the Rio Grande. They might occasionally get their ankles moist. So why does this occur? Because, as Jeremy pointed out, it serves both parties. Now, it's a twofer for the Democrats now. It didn't always used to be a twofer, but it is now. What do I mean by that? Democrats have always historically wanted illegals for the votes. Okay, dude, I get it. I grok that concept. But now they also want it for the cheap H-1B visas to help their good buds in big tech, from whom big tech stems. They've now found wonderful little places to sit on the new Biden administration boards. Funny how that works. Huh. Oh, and Republicans also get the rest of the cheap labor. Oh, plus Republicans, as we all know, Republicans exist to be loved. Not
well. Mike Lee was a rock star in the conservative movement 4 years ago, if you remember.
Yeah, not.
And today he's literally trying to placate the need to the American people for H-1B visas in Utah. We don't want to pay American kids coming out of college. We want to pay Indian kids coming out of college because we can pay them 60% less. And then those big companies line his pockets. And the other thing is, I didn't mention this earlier. You were talking about small business and a $15 an hour, hedge, basically, to put small businesses out. Here's what happens. If you're a big company, this doesn't affect you because the Republicans usually create a loophole in the tax system to get a write-off or something else for that extra money that you have to pay for them. And it all comes back to them anyways.
Yeah.
The big companies.
Yeah, it absolutely does. There isn't a dime's worth of difference between the two, which is why Jeremy and I have said we are historically done with the Democrat Party.
And Republican. I'm done with both of them.
No, I'm sorry. You're right. Democrat. I meant to say Republican. Obviously, I'm done with the Democrat Party. But yeah, the Republicans too. You expect them to fight. They got to fight because there's so much stuff coming up. And now they simply want to roll over like little puppies and expose their soft white underbelly and be loved and patted and licked and coddled and all that kind of cool stuff.
Well, let me ask you something, BZ. When is the last time that, and you can't use Josh Hawley because he's just too new in the news. When is the last time that you actually watched a senator represent the people of their district or their state rather than the party that they work for?
I have had an initial individual, and I got really torqued with him on one particular issue. But 5 or 6 years ago, the Democrats in California, always spelled it with a K, changed the district lines on me. They redistricted, and this guy who was my Congress critter no longer is, but I'm out of his district by 10 inches or something like that. Tom McClintock was my guy, and I used to contribute to Tom McClintock. And then the whole thing started with Trayvon Martin and Obama and the instigation of BLM, which is a racist terrorist group, by the way, just like Antifa. And then he said something like, well, you know what? What we need to do is remove qualified immunity from police. And essentially what that does is qualified immunity said something similar to if a similarly trained officer would react in that general fashion, in a reasonable fashion, considering their requisite training, education, and experience, then we can use that for qualified immunity. And if they don't do something in an egregious fashion, they're worthy of qualified immunity, but there are, of course, numerous cases in which qualified immunity would not hold. And then he said, okay, cops need to lose that because he trended. He went with the trend. And he was my guy, but now you go after cops? Okay. All right, you can. I'm not going to vote for you anymore. I can't. I used to send you money. I don't. I won't. And I'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right, we're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. It's the oh my God, again. I say it every time. I say it every show at this time. The final 27. The final 27. Where did an hour and a half go? Like, boom, gone. Tonight, my co-host is Jeremy Hanson of Unleashed Jeremy Hanson. And he's been here for the entire time, weighing in on all sorts of topics. And I thank you for being here tonight, sir. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
I was going to go into a great amount of detail about Sheila Jackson Lee's H.R. 127, about guns. And I just don't have time for that right now. Maybe at a later date I could do that. It just goes on and on and on and on and on about firearms. And essentially, like any number of other bills, especially with firearms, though, if they, she, he get their way, they will have the loving ability to potentially make instant felons out of at least 150, maybe 200 million Americans nationwide. Instantly. So again, I say everything for the elites and nothing for you. Police defunded, and what they want to do is you're going to be left defenseless against the anarchist mobs who turned all of 2020 into a burning, looting, desecrating, illegal, murdering shit show. And all those things are encouraged. They're acceptable. They're okay. They're even encouraged for leftists to do. How do we know?
McConnell and McCarthy do.
They told you
I'm
this.
I'm going to answer that after we watch a presentation from our friends at Cauldron Pool.
They tell you this.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
Biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should
By the way, my wife is Mexican.
have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
I think you got it. I think you got the gist of the matter. That is okay speech. Here's another new gun bill coming out. This is from all places, New Mexico. This is from Western Journal. New gun bill could make it a crime to teach kids how to shoot. And every day, Jeremy and I wake up in a different environment, in a different dimension. Frequently, I mention the planet Zephron. When this one becomes too odious, I simply zoom off through a wormhole into the planet Zephron. I don't know where Jeremy makes his purple skies. Perhaps he does, perhaps he doesn't. But every day I wake up to another new abomination. A Democrat state senator has introduced a bill in the New Mexico legislature. No, not New York or California. The New Mexico legislature that would essentially ban parents from teaching their children how to handle and shoot firearms. A dude, Senator Antoinette Cedillo Lopez, calls for strict gun storage rules and asks for stiff penalties for those who don't abide for them. California, always spell it with a K, already has this. The bill says that anybody found in violation of the gun storage law is going to be hit with a petty misdemeanor and a fine of $500. And then it also, if you look in the text, it addresses those who allow others to handle firearms, which includes children in any situation. I remind you, this is New Mexico. This isn't New York City. This isn't Chicago. A minor may be authorized an authorized user only if the minor is at least 12 years of age and has successfully completed a firearm safety training course. That would criminalize the act of parental supervision with a firearm for any person, any kid, yours, under 12, who is not paid through appropriate training. Like I said, welcome to California. We already had this. Maxine Waters just yesterday, because today's the 4th. It's still the 4th on the Pacific time, but back east, it's the next day. But from today, Maxine Waters said Trump should be charged with premeditated murder. See, and all these people, by the way, if you've ever noticed, she has the mouth of an A6 Crusader. And if you don't know what that is, go and on your favorite search engine, look up U.S. Navy. I think it's maybe I got my numerations wrong. An F8. That's what it is. It's an F8 Crusader. She has an F8 Crusader-sized mouth. Go on your favorite search engine, and see what that says. So next Tuesday, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
I just wanted to tell you about the environment that I live in here, because whatever happens in California and New Mexico will not happen in Missouri. I would say this is an honest evaluation. I bet you that 90% of the cars in Missouri have weapons in them, and most of them are loaded. That's legal here. In my town, we have 4 gas stations. We have 3 food stores, grocery stores, and we have 5 places to buy guns. We had 3 gun manufacturers, and we have one that builds 80% lowers. I'm telling you, they will not come to. They will have to go scorched earth on Missouri before because everybody in Missouri would rather be a felon than be unarmed.
That harkens back to the 50s and 60s when I was growing up. I know you'll find it shocking. I was in California, always spelled it with a K at the time. Though back then it was spelled with a C. See how history changes? If you had a pickup truck, there was a gun rack in the pickup truck. In the gun rack in the pickup truck, there was a shotgun or a rifle. That was common. You would go to school. If any kid had a pickup truck, what a great thing for that kid to have if they were in high school. And in that pickup truck, high schoolers had a shotgun or a rifle in the gun rack in the pickup truck behind your head. Gone, done, and gone. By the way, this Tuesday, the 9th, that sham trial is going to start. It's going to remove all the focus. Here's the other thing, and Jeremy, I really want to hear what you say about this, because this is what I'm alleging. During this show trial, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day, a week, all of next week, I'm not sure, it's going to remove the focus from whatever other pieces of bullshit the Democrats intend to shove through Congress. And they're going to hold something to you over here. Look, shiny, a shiny, a shiny. And then that will cause a diversion. And then you watch, folks, to see what simultaneously they attempt to shove off in the corner late at night, and you're looking someplace else. And by the way, no, President Trump is not going to appear next week. So is it possible that while everyone is focused on that sham piece of crap impeachment trial, which oddly enough, I don't believe is going to acquire enough votes, would that be an opportunity, Jeremy Hanson, to perhaps slide something through to first, second, and third bases, then to home?
I wish that was the case, but it's not happening. The Republicans already told Trump's lawyers if they bring up anything about election fraud, anything, Trump will be impeached and won't be able to run again. They've already said that. So we're not going to see anything. They've already came out and said we're not going to see any fireworks. We're not going to see anything about this election. None of that is to be on the table by order of the Republican National Committee. Rhoda McDaniel happens to be Mitt Romney's niece. So this is a sham. He can't protect himself. And basically the Republican Party came out and stiff-armed him, almost like the mob would with somebody that was like, if you don't do what we say, we're going to kill your family. That's basically, obviously I'm using a metaphor, but that's what they did to Trump. And the sad part about that is now that they're not protecting Trump, I seriously question if Trump will leave the Republican Party.
It's kind of like your neighbor who will ask to borrow your lawnmower, then maybe your boat and a cup of sugar and maybe, I don't know, then later on you find your dog is pregnant. It's like those people, and then they fuck your wife, but hey, that's okay. That's okay. We didn't really mean to. This is the same House, by the way, who voted to remove today Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene on February 4th. Mark your calendars. Who herself, I can't even think of the name of the Catholic sect who does this, but she must be a member. She displayed self-flagellation, and there were religious recants of her past sins for having had the temerity of holding an opinion, damn her. So this is what the House did today. The vote in the House was 230 to 199. So this means if you take it to BZ's logical extension axiom, this means the Republicans will be able to do the exact same thing when they're back in charge, except Jeremy Hanson.
They won't.
They
because
won't.
They're pussies.
Because they don't have the balls. So once
That's
more,
right.
That's all that you need to know about the GOP. Oh, let me throw this in. If there wasn't enough salt in the wound, BZ, I'm here to help. The House Republican Conference met yesterday afternoon. And as you would expect, they voted to keep Liz Cheney on as GOP conference chair in the number 3 leadership position, 145 to 61, when in fact back in Wyoming. Meanwhile, back at the ranch in Wyoming, all the Republicans voted to censure her in her home state. But no, not Cocaine Mitch or anybody else. That Liz Cheney, we need 1,000 more just like her. This is the GOP.
Can I make you feel dirty for a second?
Oh, it's late at night. Why not?
Okay. How bad is Dick Durbin? How bad is Dick Durbin?
Oh, he's a good guy. Come on.
Okay. So, Mike Lee, I touched on this earlier, with the H-1B visas. And this is where the American people just really don't know what the hell's going on.
No, they don't.
Mike Lee is trying to pass this legislation, and he did, by the way, basically to open up our country and states for no per capita, so we can get a bunch of Indians or whatever from India.
Why not?
I want you to listen to this. The Fairness for High-Skilled Immigrants Act has been called the greatest corporate welfare program for big tech in years. Mike Lee has persistently sought to pass a corporate giveaway, with previous attempts to eliminate per-country caps being blocked by Dick Durbin and Republican Rick Scott. Those were the only two guys that had the balls to block this. Okay, now, you know this. Big tech companies, we're talking Apple, Google, Microsoft, they have been lobbying for this forever.
Years.
And it says the American technology industry has displaced countless American workers from their careers. That's all fact. So in this list, it finally, he gets it to go through in the Senate with nobody throwing up an objection. Nobody. Dick Durbin tried. Rick Scott tried. The third time, nobody gave an objection, and they're like, we're going to have to rely on Trump. Trump looked at it, and he put a provision for blocking Chinese nationals from using the H-1B and then put it through. So I think that America really needs to wake up. And if you start looking at this stuff, you feel a lot dirtier than you did before you read it.
Yeah, you're kind of being kind. It is late at night, and I am trying to slosh back my requisite minimum amount of potty talk. And okay, I'll just leave it at that. But if I forgot this. You talk about salt in the wound, Jeremy Hanson of Unleashed. Right. Jeremy Hanson. Here's a little salt in the wound. By the way, these people that are H-1B visas, workers coming in, it's the current job position holders, the real lawful Americans that are going to have to train these people so that they can screw you out of a job.
Absolutely. That's the honest to God truth.
That is the truth. That has been happening for quite some time, and any American worker who is in a current position, and everybody in that position has their ear to the ground. And you know when this is coming and when these changes are going to be made.
Absolutely.
And they're going to take over your position, and worse yet, hell, we may as well just pour some chlorine into the open wound, and you'll train them up for your job.
Right. Not only train them up, I do believe there's provisions in there when they come here from India or wherever else. We pay their rent for a year. We pay their food for a year. They automatically get health benefits that are covered by the state and the business. So, I mean, literally, this is corporate welfare at the very top. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, the BLM and Antifa, they were killing Americans, which they were. They have every right to say that. But Republicans have been doing the exact same thing through corporatism for years, and it's about time the American people wake up and see what a four-flushing sack of shit the Republican Party is, along with the four-flushing sack of shit of the Democrat Party.
Well, this is the GOP pretending that Trump didn't expose them all as backstabbers of conservatives. Another in a massive litany, continuing litany of reasons why Republicans, yeah, you can all go to hell. Everyone knows who listens to the show that I am fluent in leftist, and I translate numerous things for you. That's one of the reasons that you come here and you listen to me and you watch. These days, though, I have also had to become fluent in Republican. So here's the state of the art in most Republicans when confronted with an issue or a problem. Most of the translations revolve now around what we'll do as Republicans is, let's see, do I have a better voice for this? Yeah, I think I do. What we'll do as Republicans is we will use our harshest, most pointed sarcasm at you. And if you push us further, we may even frown at you. So we may use sarcasm and we may frown at you. And that turns everyone's blood to ice. And I got to tell you something good. This was great today because if you've been paying attention, I'm still on Twitter. Twitter has not really screwed with me, and I think it's because I don't have any damn followers, nor do I really give a shit. I just use it, like I've told you any number of times before. I use Twitter as a repository for what I'm going to be talking about in my radio shows. So if you want to have any kind of an idea about what I'm going to be talking in my shows, either Tuesday or Thursday night, go to Twitter. And I've been getting away with just a sack of crap from them, but watching Twitter allowed me to see this. These are some trending hashtags. AOC lied. AOC Smollett. AOC is a drama queen. AOC liar. AOC Smollett. This is some good, clean fun. Well, what are we talking about? This is trending. This is, I think, from NBC.
I had a pretty traumatizing event happen to me. And I do not know if I can even disclose the full details of that event due to security concerns. But I can tell you that I had a very close encounter where I thought I was going to die. And you have all of those thoughts where, you know, at the end of your life, and all of these thoughts come rushing to you. And that's...
In chat, Leslie Holker says, God, she gives me a headache.
What happened to a lot of us on Wednesday. And I thought I did not know if I was going to make it to the end of that day alive.
She didn't know if she was going to make it to the end of the day alive, because here's what the truth is. As it turns out, AOC lied about being in the Capitol building. She wasn't in the Capitol. Now, she was in the Cannon building, which, according to DC insiders, is a 10-minute walk away, away from the riots. I created a meme about that. Go to my Twitter account, @BZEP, @BZEP. Now, this is why I go to UK media frequently. I had to find this on UK media. Nobody else is going to cover it. From the UK Daily Mail. He was looking at me with tremendous anger and hostility. AOC claims she feared the cop who was trying to help her during an exaggerated near-death riot experience when she was nowhere near the trouble. That's the headline in a UK publication. Then all these various bullet points. AOC claimed in an Instagram video on February 1st she thought she's going to die on January 6th. She described hiding in the bathroom of her office at the Cannon office building when the mob stormed the Capitol building 0.3 miles away. The Cannon building was not breached, but it was evacuated as cops tried to secure the Capitol. AOC tearfully recalled how a Capitol cop came to evacuate her and how she was suspicious of him. She said he never announced that he was police, but he was apparently there to help her. Again, didn't have a partner and looked at her aggressively. Must have been a white guy. Yeah, he was a white guy. So she said, like so many communities, she did not immediately feel safe around the police officer. The officer told her to go to the Longworth office building, where Representative Katie Porter's office is. So AOC hid in Porter's office, away from the Cannon building, further away from the Capitol building, and told her how she wanted to live to become a mother, and she was looking for a closet to hide in. Now she's being slammed, shock, for saying she feared for her life when she wasn't even in the Capitol building. RedState.com also happened to have this. Just because Leslie demanded it.
Like, I'm here, and the bathroom door starts going like this. Like, the bathroom door's behind me, or rather in front of me, and I'm like this, and the door hinges right here. And I just hear, where is she? Where is she? And this was the moment where I thought everything was over.
Where is she? Where is she? She was going to die. Would that have been the Capitol cop? Oh, no. Okay, I also came across this. This is from, you guys, if you know the TV show, you'll know this. Listen very carefully. Okay, come on, do it. There we go. Oh, you're screwing with me again. I guess I got to turn up this. Okay, hang on 1 second, because this is actually funny. Listen.
Here's your words. Here's your words. I was murdered. You were murdered. Okay, you obviously weren't murdered because you're alive and you're basically intact. You weren't murdered, buddy. Here's your words. Here's your words. I was murdered. You were murdered. Okay, you obviously weren't murdered because you're alive and you're basically intact. You weren't murdered, buddy.
Oh, who does that remind you of? Anybody in particular? Bueller? This is, again, falls under the category of you just can't write this stuff. You absolutely cannot. I'm running out of time, and I wanted to get to Lori Lightfoot, and in the meantime, something significant in my neck of the woods occurred just yesterday. And I want to end on this fashion. All of what we're hearing is out of 1984's Ministry of Truth. We are encountering peak Orwell today. And just when I've said that you can't write this shit, I was wrong. I admit it. I was wrong. It's already been written. It's called 1984, and it's called Animal Farm. And this, with Jeremy, and thank you again for being here, sir, is just 1 week in the United States of America. Now, what I end with, this is going to tear me up, but I'm going to do it anyway. I end with the funeral for Sacramento County Deputy Sheriff Adam Gibson, who was murdered, and his canine partner Riley, shot and killed by a parolee following a vehicle stop on January 19th. Now, except for Deputy Gibson, the last 4 murdered Sacramento County deputies worked for me at one point or another. So I kind of tend to take this personally. This is the End of Watch broadcast for Sacramento County Deputy Sheriff Adam Gibson, and his canine partner, Riley, from February 3rd.
Maine to Canine 6. Maine to Canine 6. Information all units, keep the air clear for Canine 6. Main copies. K96 Deputy Adam Gibson, badge 729, is 10-7, end of watch, Monday, January 18th, 2021.
Good night.